I'm James Fratzke, and this is Leaders. There's this quote I really love by Sir Isaac Newton. It goes like this: "If I've seen further than others, it's by standing upon the shoulders of giants." So Leaders is an opportunity for you and I to stand on the shoulders of giants and learn from their journey. On each episode, I'll interview a proven leader, CEO, entrepreneur, or founder and unpack their story of success. On this episode, we're actually talking to 3 founders that were in the Shark Tank that actually made a deal with Mark Cuban. This episode is going to get into some pretty good detail up front of what it's like to be on Shark Tank. So if you've ever watched an episode and wondered, what are the behind-the-scenes secrets? What are things that the founders have to go through that we're not aware of? Well, you're going to get a taste of some of that on today's episode. Enjoy my interview with David, Saul, and Alex. All right, I am here with the 3 gentlemen from Bouquet Bar. They were recently just on Shark Tank, and I'll let you guys just kind of say your names real quick. We got, who do we got on the phone right now?
Sal Aziz, Alex Amidi,
and David Yusuf. Thank you for having us.
Hey, it is absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for making the time for us today. So let me start with kind of the end of the Shark Tank episode. And David, this is a question for you specifically. You said that what you really wanted to do was call your dad afterwards. Did you make that call, and how did it go?
My wife was actually mad. She said, "Why don't you want to call me first?" No, I didn't make that call. You know, the funny thing is my dad knows about Shark Tank, but I don't think he realized. So until the thing aired, I don't think he realized how big it was, but he's a big inspiration for me. So that was one of the second calls I made. I actually called my wife first.
Well, there you go. So you did call your wife. And so what was her reaction when you told her you got the deal with Mark Cuban?
I told her, "You're lucky I didn't sign a prenup with you." No, I'm kidding. No, she was ecstatic. It was just an unbelievable thing. It's all of our dreams come true. We all actually religiously watch Shark Tank, so it was a pretty amazing experience.
Would all 3 of you guys on the phone right now consider yourself entrepreneurs, or how would you categorize yourself?
Yeah, I would say we're pretty entrepreneurial.
Saul, I didn't get your backstory too much, but Alex and David, you guys are both immigrants to the States. David, you were here, I think you came around 9, you said, and Alex around 15 and a half. Am I getting those right?
Yes, you got that right. I came in was 15 and a half.
And so, David, for you said a story on Shark Tank where you were selling flowers on the corner, and now you're just selling flowers in a box. So a little bit similar but different, I guess. What lessons did you learn from that experience? Because that's tough, right? Like, that's sales 101. Like, you got to be able to connect with people in a short amount of time and have a lot of resilience because it's not easy. So did you learn any lessons from that experience that have helped you be the founder and CEO of Bouquet Bar?
You know, I think the biggest thing that I've learned, doing that was the value of a dollar. Coming to this country like many immigrants do, not coming with any money, and parents just trying to make a living and trying to do the best for their kids. When you are selling flowers on a corner street, I was actually, I think, around 11, 12 years old. When you start making money and you buy things yourself and you do things and stuff like that, it gives you a sense of accomplishment, but it also really teaches you the value of a dollar. And as you grow up, you don't realize it, but as you grow up, you realize like, wow, I remember those days. Those things really stick with you, and it really helps you in your business, even though it's such a small thing.
Right. Now, that brings me to my next question. On the episode, you guys said that you had personally invested about $600,000 into the company. How is that has got to be such a gut-wrenching moment. How has that kind of impacted you guys personally? How did you get to the point where you said, okay, we're doing this, we're all in?
Well, we all ride bicycles to work now. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
As entrepreneurs, I'll tell you, you really have to believe in your product. And if you are a true entrepreneur, you do go all in. But since this is an entrepreneurial thing, I will tell you that we've made a lot of mistakes as well. It's not always been good, and entrepreneurs need to know that. And one of the mistakes that we made is we didn't test. So one thing I would recommend to any entrepreneur is test your product, test what works, test what doesn't work, test what sells, because it really gives you a lot of great data, and then you know how to pivot. We started out way too big, but we got very fortunate to go on Shark Tank, and now that Shark Tank has happened, we have the facilities, we have the inventory and everything. But I can tell you that if Shark Tank didn't happen, we would be a little bit of a trouble. I think we would still have success, but obviously we've had this great jet fuel that's accelerated us.
Right. Like you guys definitely, you said on the episode you started the company about 4 months ago. How long from the time that you guys taped that episode did it take for it to air? I know it aired back in January of this year. So what was kind of the span between taping and airtime?
It was hard because once we made a deal, we're fortunate enough to make a deal with Mark Cuban. And once you make a deal, I don't know if anybody knows this, but 60 to 70% of the deals fall apart after the handshake.
I've heard that.
So we're very fortunate to make a deal with Mark. His team has been amazing. We went through a rigorous due diligence period. It took about 5 months. We closed the deal and then about end of November. And then early January, we got a call saying we're going to be on Shark Tank. So it took a good 7 months to finally realize. And the other thing that you hear over and over when you are on Shark Tank is you are not guaranteed to air. So they tell you that, so, but it's just an amazing platform. It's an amazing show because I think it's really transformed entrepreneurs, the way people think, the way people get inspired. So it's been a great platform.
Now, you guys have seen the episode, and I hate watching myself on camera, so I totally empathize with you guys right now. But I have to call out the elephant in the room a little bit. You were a little nervous at the beginning, at least what they kept in the edit. So what were like the nerves going through your guys' bloodstream as you were standing there with the cameras on and everything? Like, what were you thinking?
Maybe I should answer that since I was the most nervous. This is Sal, by the way.
Thanks, Sal.
Yeah, I think they build you up like the build up is really a lot. You go in front of the executive producers, then you have these producers that are assigned to you, and they kind of just build you up like, hey, and a lot of people don't know this. When you walk on the carpet, there's 1 minute of silence, and it's just all the lights are on you, and we actually changed our pitch at the very last minute.
Wow.
So there was some audible cues that we were going off of that, was thrown off. But what, we were in there for almost an hour, right? Actually exactly an hour. And it was, obviously we know we're dealing with TV, so it was edited in a great way. But after the initial kind of mess up, we had a really good conversation flow with all the sharks. We were in there, we had great dialogue with Lori, with Damon, with Mark especially, and even Mr. Wonderful. So, it goes pretty fast when they have it edited, and it kind of, it wasn't as bad as they made it seem like. The initial mess up was just maybe 2 or 3 seconds.
Right.
After that, Alex made them laugh. He had a really funny story about working at Burger King, and we had some other stories. My background's the same as Alex and David's. I came here in 1991 from Afghanistan. My dad passed away over there, so just my mom, working 2 jobs to make sure that I have a brother and a sister to make sure we have a good life here. So what kind of bonds us 3 together and why we work so well together is probably that upbringing and that same kind of roots, I would put it. So back to your question, yeah, it was extremely nerve-wracking. In fact, they actually have a psychologist talk to you after the show ends because, you're able to get your heart rate so high, and then that emotional roller coaster, whether you get a deal or don't get a deal, essentially like, our life savings are in this business. Everybody sacrificed so much to get a deal with Mark, to be on the show presenting our case. It's just nerves are all over the place. So yeah, it was definitely very, very nerve wracking.
I bet. But I agree with you. I only saw the edit. I wasn't there for the hour, but after that initial kind of stumble, I thought that all 3 of you guys did a very good job of connecting with the Sharks and getting to the numbers, and I think that they seemingly appreciated that. But what I noticed is that the Sharks started dropping kind of one after another relatively quickly. What was that like when Lori was like, yeah, this is kind of like Sugarfina, I'm out? Like, what was that initial feeling from you guys?
Yeah, obviously the first experience, obviously you want to, you want every judge to be in and be all over you, right? But
right.
It definitely is a shock, but we stood our ground really well. I think we explained why we're so different and we don't have a competitor in the field. Sugarfina, 1-800-Flowers, all these guys, they do what they do really well. Like, I think they're great companies. They do, like, for example, 1-800-Flowers does flowers really well, and they've been doing it for 30 plus years. But we're different. We're flower based, and we've brought in that whole element of gifting along with flowers. And, we offer more than just flowers and candy. We have candles, we have lotion, we have face scrubs, we have socks, underwear, nuts, and we're bringing on more stuff, coffee, tea. So we're trying to touch every kind of occasional base. So, for example, if this is a sympathy, you don't want to just send candy to somebody who's maybe has lost somebody, but some white flowers and some candles and maybe some lavender chocolates or even some tea might soothe their pain. And maybe it won't replace, but it will do that. Now, for a birthday, it's your brother's birthday or your sister's birthday. You want something cheerful. You can send popcorn. You can send chocolates. You can send beautiful flowers. So we allow you to really customize based on the occasion. And because we have some expert florists on our team and one of the best designers on our team as well, flowers is what anchors our business.
One of the things I want to add to that, one of the things that we didn't get, and you know how it is in Shark Tank, when they start asking questions, even though we were there an hour and it got edited to a lot much less, they don't sometimes give you the opportunity to give the total story of our business. Like when Lori brought that up, one of the things we wanted to try to explain that we have so many different products involved with flowers and other things, that this is a gifting platform. This is not only about chocolates and candies. We have so many other things and so many other product lines in the works for the future, because we are the art of gifting. We created this thing to create product lines that goes into the gifting boxes for different occasions and reasons, and she never gave that opportunity to us to answer. And that's how it is in Shark Tank. But for people who are listening to this, Bouquet Bar is a company that's going to be ongoing with gifting, and we're going to have all kind of items and occasions for the consumer to buy. And that's what's so beautiful about us. It's what sets us apart from Sugarfino or any other company out there.
And one of the things is, after Lori dropped off, and I know the editing makes it seem like they dropped one after the other, we had some really good conversations with Mr. Wonderful. Damon asked some good questions, and even Mark about, why we are so different or why we are so unique. I don't know if you saw that, but Mr. Wonderful said this is probably the best box design and we've ever seen in Shark Tank. And part of the conversation went to that. Like, we spent a few minutes on that. Like, how did you guys design it? What was the inspiration behind it? So there's a lot of thought. And another thing that I want to mention, I know that there was one dropping after another, but mind you that we did the Shark Tank 3 or 4 months after we had been live to the public, and our cost of customer acquisition was pretty high. We had made some early mistakes. Now, if we had done Shark Tank now, maybe Mr. Wonderful, some of these guys will have a different thought process, because we have significantly brought down our cost of customer acquisition. We have really made sure our processes are more efficient. We're not wasting money on items that people won't buy. We're testing everything before we get into the next level of buying more inventory. So we're become more efficient, and in every sense of the word, and we're continuing to improve each process as we move forward.
There's so many things I want to ask you, so stick with me here. I want to start with, you made a great point. Hey, your cost of acquisition has come down. The business has improved. Are you able to get the contact information of some of these other investors and come back to them and do follow-up? Or is it kind of one and done, and you're not really able to come back to these folks?
No, we can come back to them. I'll tell you a funny story. A friend of ours was in Vegas for an event, and he is very well connected in Vegas, and he happened to be at one of Damon John's parties.
Right.
And they started chatting, and he told him, hey, our friend was on Shark Tank Bouquet Bar, and he's like, oh, I love their product. Please have him contact my people. I want to buy some corporate gifting for some of the things that I'm doing. And so we're in contact with Damon's people. We reached out to them to see if we can set that up.
David, you had made such a great point, and I think anybody who ever watches Shark Tank watches this way, like, oh, say this or say that or do whatever. But then you were in the moment, and you really did fight to keep Mark on the hook and to finally close that deal. What is it in you that allowed you to not give up and keep going? Have there ever been any experiences in your life where you've been faced with something like that in the past, where you've wanted to give up and said, no, shoot, I got to keep plowing forward?
I think all three of us sitting here, we have that mentality of just not giving up. I think having the father that I had in my life, and he's still around, thank God, he never sat down with me and said, don't give up. He never said that to me. I say that to my kids all the time, but he just had this attitude of just, going out there and doing it. That really teaches you a lot. Actions that speak louder than words, as they say. And I said it on the show too, and I'll say this now, but it's funny. I kind of role play with myself at times in my head, and I'll watch a movie, and let's just say the girl's breaking up with the guy, and I'm like, oh, say this or say that or do this and do that. And it was funny. I was in the tank, and they actually dropped off, not quickly. It shows it on the show quickly, but they kind of like dropped off slowly. But when 3 of the sharks fell out, and it was just Mr. Wonderful and Mark, in my head, I'm sure Sal was thinking the same thing, and Alex was thinking the same thing, and because Alex was handling the design questions, Sal was handling the tech questions, and I was handling the business questions. In my head, I was like, David, this is it. Like, you talk about this with your kids. This is it, man. Do not give this up. And as soon as Kevin O'Leary said it's with heavy heart, I have to, go out. Mark said, great, the riffraff's out of the way. Let's talk. So I'll be honest with you, that was a big hope for all of us. I'm sure, I don't want to speak for the guys here, but I'm sure that, that was a big hope for, like, okay, this guy's interested. And me personally, I really had hedged myself with Mark. I had listened to every tape of his, read his books, everything. So we really wanted to show what the real people we are. And I really look up to Mark a lot because he thinks differently. That's our motto. We think differently. And that's what Mark does. He sees things that other people don't see. So yeah, it was definitely like, this is it, man. Don't give up.
And funny story, when we're prepping for Shark Tank, we all made a list of the sharks that we wanted. And when we came back to the table, all of us had Mark as number 1. Obviously some people had Mr. Wonderful as number 2 or Lori as number 2, whatever it may be. But we all had Mark. So maybe subconsciously when we're in the tank, we're kind of talking to him indirectly anyways. And like I said, that was a 15-minute edited version of an hour of us being in the Shark Tank. But we had amazing dialogue with him, and he actually stood up for us a few times. When Mr. Wonderful called us out for customer acquisition, Mark was like, "Come on, are you serious? They've only been in business for 3 months, and you should see some of the numbers that I see." And then Lori said something, and he stood up for us. So maybe in laws of attraction, in some weird way, all 3 of us were kind of sending that energy towards him. And even towards the very end, when he said, "Oh, I was this close to giving me the deal," he still kind of, you could tell he wanted to help us, and he's been unbelievable, after the show, helping us and giving us all these opportunities. And I don't know if you know or not, but he recently tweeted us out to his 2.7 million followers, like, "Hey guys, do Valentine's Day right, go to Bouquet Bar," which is, I don't know if he's done that before with any of his entrepreneurs or not, but we were definitely blessed to have him on our team and have his insight and his knowledge.
And you guys got to be happy with the fact that the episode aired 2 weeks before Valentine's Day, right? Like that's got to be a blessing. And then Mark obviously tweets out the tweet, "Hey, do Valentine's Day right." So what kind of bump have you guys experienced? And from kind of a behind the scenes, how has it been, if you have experienced this increase, how has it been kind of running at a level that maybe you guys haven't been running at before?
It's funny you say that because, life works in weird ways. So we were really hoping to air during the holidays. We really wanted to, because, we get a big boost there and stuff like that. And we finally found out, that we're not going to air because the schedule had come up and stuff. And, obviously the next big thing was for us, our date was the 21st of January. The reason we liked the 21st of January is that it gave us 3 weeks till Valentine's Day. So we would get a Shark Tank bump and then also have time to prepare for Valentine's Day and get a Valentine's Day bump. And when we got that call saying, you guys are on January 21st, it was just amazing because we were prepared. We think, we had our marketing team ready, our PR team ready, our products were even better, our website, we had made some changes to our website. So it worked amazingly. In regards to numbers, I can tell you that we have probably grown at least, we're probably going to grow our numbers for the month of February at least 10 to 15 times fold. It's easily. Wow. Our conversion rate has gone up from about 1.52%. Today we're running at about an 8.5% conversion rate. So it's been amazing.
Wow, that's almost unheard of. I assume you're talking about like PPC, cost per click, on Google from a conversion rate standpoint. Yeah, that's pretty great. So from that standpoint, you guys got into it a little bit on Shark Tank, but then it got swerved onto a different conversation. What is kind of, and Saul, I think this is your camp from well, I guess you're more the technology guy, but I don't know who the marketing guy is on the team, but what is kind of your guys' main path to acquisition today? Is it all online? Is there anything else you guys are doing?
That's me also. Yeah, so we have two channels. I mean, obviously at that time we were running in multiple channels. So just to kind of give you a background, at the time of Shark Tank, we were running on Facebook, we were running on Yahoo's native ads, we were running on Google, we were doing email acquisition, and then we were also doing affiliate marketing. So out of all those two channels, Google was obviously the most successful for us because it's intent-based audience. They're looking for a specific occasion, and we really, after Shark Tank, we really, did well on Mother's Day, and then we killed it for the rest of the year with birthdays, right? Facebook, we had some struggles with finding the right audience, but now with the branding out there and people putting the brand behind the name, we're starting to get a lot of really great acquisition on Facebook. We've kind of walked away from Yahoo native ads, but email has been such a huge channel for us. I mean, over the course of just Shark Tank, we captured some 6,000 emails. And we've had a ridiculous 50% open rate and just amazing 13, 14, 15% click-through rates, sometimes 20% click-through rates, and a ton of purchases from email, which we already knew. I mean, from the very start, I told David, like, look, email is going to be king for us, specifically because of what and who we are, right? So we're occasion-based gifting company. Imagine getting an email 5 or 10 days before your wife's birthday. Hey, it's a perfect time. And you're more likely.
And I haven't got anything yet.
Yeah. you're more likely to convert with that email. And those are some of the things that we're working on. We're going to start to automate those emails. We're going to start to capture birthdays, anniversaries, so that we can start sending reminders out. Right now, we have an unbelievable, 13% shopping abandonment recovery, which is super high for people in our state. So we're doing really well. So for right now, two main source of acquisition for us is new clients is Google and Facebook. And then we also have, obviously our PR, our social team is doing a great job getting this out there with, celebrities. We were on Housewives of Atlanta. Our boxes were featured in Marlo's house, and several other key placements that we've added. We're in talks with a couple athletes now that, will probably post for us on Valentine's Day, a lot of male following there. We have some influencer-based marketing coming up for this Valentine's Day. But with Shark Tank and Mark's influence, we've had more than we can handle, and we're ready to explode.
Let me shift gears real quick. I know, David, you went to the University of San Diego. I think, Sal, you did Riverside. Alex, did you go to college?
Actually, I'm a drop-off. I was always street smart, hardworking. I'm a quick learner. I never got to finish schooling. It was like I said in the past. I came to this country with my brother, no parents, $4,000 in my pocket. So it came to a point that it was either I put food on the table or go to school. So at that point, I had to, I remember that day I lost my job. I was sitting and I didn't have no running water at my house. I had 2 tortillas and a few dates, and I was about to be on the street. And at that point, I realized that I need to go get a job and I need to stop going to school. So unfortunately, I never got to finish that, but I always put my efforts and 100% into business and work and being smart about what I do. And if I could have gone back to school, I would have definitely do. And I would tell everybody that has a chance to go back to school, they definitely need to do that, because that's really sets you up in life in many, many different ways. It's the greatest thing every young person, an old person should do and have. I don't know if at this point in my life, I'm going to go back to school or not. Probably not. I'm 46 years old.
Yeah, well, you're halfway done,
I'm
Alex.
halfway
You might as well
done.
just give up now, man. You know.
I'm halfway done. If I need to know something, I ask David and Sal. They'll tell me.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Google.
Well,
Google it.
yeah,
Google
Google,
it.
man. Everything is the power of your phone there. But so that my question was kind of, and I love Alex. Thank you for sharing. My question was going to be, like David and Sal, from your guys' perspective, if you could do it over again, would you have said, screw school, I'm going to get right into being an entrepreneur? Or do you think that your path that you took was the right one and it set you up for success later on?
No, I think for me at least, I can't speak for everybody else. Everybody's made differently. I think school was very important, and I actually enjoyed going to school. I had a completely different path. If I told you my path, my career path, it's shifted so many times. So I went to school for sociology. My whole focus was to get my PhD and become a professor. Took a year off, made some really good money, and then started becoming an entrepreneur and going into digital media and technology. And my last class, I'll tell you a funny story because I minored in business. One of my last classes was a digital media class, and I was like, I'm never going to use this. So I dropped it and picked something else up. 5 years later, I'm fully involved building products for SSPs and digital media. But I wouldn't do it. I think school was very huge for me.
What about you, David?
No, I think school is really, really big. I actually was a biochem major, minor in econ. And, for me, I think the path that you take, even if, let's just say, if I said school was not the right place, if I didn't go to school, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I can take nothing back. I mean, my path has been amazing, ups and downs. But no, I think school is really, really important. I think the other thing also, I think I would advise people, and I said this earlier, and, our current business partner, fortunate to have him, is Mark Cuban. He talks a lot about reading and researching. And I think I would really highly suggest that for any entrepreneurial. Back in our days, I'm a little bit older, I'm 41, school was really only the resource, or, we had encyclopedia, and then obviously the internet came. But there's so many resources now. There's podcasts like yours that are great. There's, research. There's all kinds of stuff. They say at least an hour a day, podcasts, reading, something of that sort. It really gives you a lot of things. There's this program on NPR called with Guy Raz, How I Built This. Amazing stories of people, how they built their company. And the one thing that you hear in all these entrepreneurs is just the passion of never giving up. It's simple as that.
Well, and that is the key driver between the wantrepreneur, which I think is a Mark Cuban word he made up, the wantrepreneur and the entrepreneur, right? And it's that ability to keep driving forward. Let me shift gears to this question. What are some of the tactics that you guys use each day to stay focused and, keep grinding away at the vision, at the goal? Is there anything that you guys do that you think would be helpful to share with the audience? Any habits or tactics that you practice on a day-to-day basis?
I think what's great is each of us have a different department and different area that we do. Like Sal handles tech and Alex handles design and I handle business. For me particularly, I really try to read a lot. I try to see what's going on with online. I try to read what's going on with the malls. I try to see people's behaviors. I try to listen to a lot of different podcasts of entrepreneurs. So again, going back to reading, listening, I think is really important for me.
I can tell you, for me, day-to-day basis, more like I do some of the stuff that David said. He's very good at that. I try to learn from the people around me, So obviously, I have two great business partners. I try to listen and see what they do. That's one part of being focused on business and learning from each other. Another thing is being organized and being driven and being innovative and think about the next steps and not think about just today. Think about 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, a year from now, what you see in business you need to do and how you get there. And for me, it's all about getting the tasks done for the day, but also looking at all the tasks in the future.
So for me, I think visualization is a huge thing for me. So when I wake up in the morning, I always try to visualize what's going to happen during the day, what we're going to do a month from now, a year from now, and where is Bouquet Bar going to be in the future. And one of the ways I stay focused and I stay energized is our daily, kind of huddles here at Bouquet Bar. Again, we're still a very small startup. We're making some headways as far as Shark Tank is concerned. Our name's really getting out there, and and just our relentlessness to like not just let this wave kind of ride itself out. We want this thing to just explode, right? So every day we have a different, we're trying different avenues to make sure we grow the right way. We're attacking, whether it's advice from Mark or going after influencers or building new technology, whatever it is, trying to make sure we're more efficient. So every day there's a new challenge. And I tell David, I love these days because I have 3 kids, and I blink and I'm here at the office, and I blink and it's already 8 o'clock at night, and we're there and I'm back on the computer. So it's the days are going by fast, which means we're doing really good work. And so just to stay motivated, it's always just us 3. I think we keep each other motivated.
So let me ask you a few questions about the 3 of you, because it sounds like in the limited time that I've gotten to know you guys, you get along really well and you kind of understand what each one of you brings to the table and the expertise that you have. But one of the most difficult things about being a startup and having co-founders is disagreements and not necessarily seeing eye to eye. Is that something that you guys struggle with at all, or how do you keep it civil?
I think everybody has to know what their roles are and be respectful of each other. I mean, Alex and I were business partners for a good 5 years. And Sal's been a good friend of mine. So, I told Alex about Sal, and he came in and we interviewed him and stuff. And, while Sal was talking to us, everything that he said, half the stuff I didn't understand, neither did Alex. And he left the room, we kind of give each other high fives, and we're like, it's awesome. Like, we don't understand what the hell he's saying, but it sounds good. Because we knew that part of our team was missing. And, like, for example, I've had a lot to do with design. Sal's had to do with design. So everybody knows what their core is, but we sit down as a team and like get each other's opinions and, learn. I mean, don't get me wrong, partnerships, it's always hard and stuff. But at the end of the day, if everybody knows where the finishing line is, you can get along and do it right.
And I think there's going to be arguments. I mean, me, David, and Alex, we all have shouting matches. And one of the things, I'm a basketball player, and I always told my friends, what stays inside these lines stays within these lines. It's just basketball. It is what it is. And same thing here. We're all friends outside of work. So what we've done a really good job of is we're able to criticize each other. We're able to get in each other's faces. We're able to call each other out for weaknesses, whatever it may be, or for certain mistakes. But the cool thing is, after the day's over or we're home, we're still friends, we're still partners, and we can come back and the next day and just say, hey, that was, that's just business. We need to forward. Not anybody in this team is saying, oh, well, I just want to fail. All 3 of us want to succeed, and the goal is the same. That's what makes us like bond and glue together, because that one goal at the end is the same.
I'm going to add to that. One thing I think between 3 of us, our backgrounds is helpful because we immigrated from certain part of the world. We understand each other a little bit better than if we all were from different parts of the world. Another thing is we all 3 individuals are driven, but also at the same time we understand each other's expertise. So, but at the same time with that expertise, we are okay and comfortable to talk about each other's role. And if we have good ideas and if we have any kind of comments on each other, we trust each other at what we do. Okay, like I trust David and Sal, and they trust me. So at the end of the day, if there is questions about it, we'll talk about it. We'll see what we can do. At the end of the day, you pair yourself with people who are better than you in different things. And when you do that in business, that's always more success for everybody. And if you're open-minded and you listen and you question, and to better something, it's always things come out better. So we're all 3 open-minded that way. So I think that's one of the things that really helps us, move forward and do things and for better of the business. And we're very understanding. We don't have egos. We're humble. We're all hardworking. So all those, we all met each other. We knew that we're going to get along.
Well, Jim Collins, I don't know if you guys have read the book Good to Great, but one of his things, he says that great companies, the executives and the leaders, they all argue with each other, but they're all fighting for the same thing. They want to make sure that the best strategy is being used, that the best product is being put forward. And it sounds like that's what you guys do, right? You don't mind saying that you agree or disagree with each other because you all have the same interest in mind, which is building Bouquet Box into the biggest, baddest, greatest thing that it can be.
You know, one of the things that when you start reading these business books, a lot of the things that they teach you is, I wouldn't say common sense, but it is common sense. Like, for example, Jeff Bezos talks about, he's like, look, we concentrate on some basic things. So tell me one person that doesn't want cheaper shipping. Everybody does. So that's what we're going to concentrate on. You know, tell me one person that doesn't want better customer service. We concentrate on customer service. We're very customer centric. So sometimes I feel that companies make things too complicated. And you sometimes have to go to basics. And those are the things that make the company last longer. And one of the things that we really try to do when we came out with the company is that, you know, we wanted to make sure that the customer loves the product. The customer has an amazing experience with the product, because it doesn't matter what the price point is or where you're at. If that experience is amazing, even though we have Google, we have Facebook, there is no better marketing. And I've said this hands down, and it'll always be the case, is word of mouth. There's never better marketing than word of mouth.
Absolutely. Well, when that box shows up, and it shows up to somebody's office or whatever it is, well, what is that? And oh, wow, this is really high quality stuff. And oh, those are pretty flowers. And you better believe that everybody's going to be watching that and saying, where do I get that thing? So yeah, word of mouth is so huge in today's world.
I'll tell you a success story on that specific word of mouth. So when we first started, we knew that one of the main areas is going to be businesses. I think, there's not a lot of really good corporate gifting. So we knew that, and we reached out to mortgage companies, real estate companies, tech companies, whatever it may be. And we partnered up with this mortgage company. They're a huge mortgage company out of San Diego. They do massive amounts of volume. We started because we sent them some samples and they really liked it. They started out with 10 boxes. Their first order was just 10 boxes, and it was going out to their real estate agents. They thought our box price was a little expensive at the beginning, so they sent it to their top agents. And what happened was those agents loved those boxes so much that they got more referrals. Like, hey, thank you so much, that was amazing, da da da. And so then they increased that to 20, and then they went to 30, and then they went to 40, and now they're over 100 boxes a month with us every month, right? And what's happened there is they're sending these boxes out to real estate agents and real estate firms, because real estate agents refer them deals. And what's happening is now other real estate agents are seeing our boxes arrive at their office, and they're asking, what program are you guys in? We want to be in the same program. So they're getting called in from real estate agents saying, hey, I don't know what program you have, but we want to be a part of that. So now they've actually created a program for real estate agents from these offices, and they've actually tripled their referral base just off of gifting. So that's a little success story for us, and there's many more of those that we're building on, but that's a really good one because we have this customer now on a monthly basis.
Well, that's part of what you were sharing, Saul, or I think, David, you said on the tank, like part of our job is to educate people on the fact that they're not gifting right. And so I think like education is the new marketing. And so you guys do have this great opportunity to educate, use that as a platform for marketing as well. And so, Saul, your kind of point there is that you can kind of educate these companies, hey, by gifting, you can see your conversion rates increase. You can see your close rates increase. And so that's kind of a cool education story that you can teach to those customers. All right, guys, so we are getting towards the end of our time. So I have a few rapid fire questions I want to throw at you, and then I will let you get back to building this business. I'm sure it's a very busy time for you guys. So here's the first one. And I guess we'll just kind of go around the horn real quick. So we'll start with David. David, if you could write a postcard to anybody, past or present, who would you write it to, and what would it say?
Wow, you caught me off guard. Tell me one more time.
See, you know what? That question catches everybody off guard 100% of the time. So here it is one more time. If you could write a postcard to anybody, past or present, who would it be, and what would it say?
You know, I would probably say hands down my parents, and it would just be simple. Thank you for everything that you've done for me. Without them, I would be nothing. So that's what that would be mine.
Love it. We're going over to you now, Alex. What would that postcard be for you, and who would it say?
One one postcard.
He's thinking about Cindy Crawford. No, I'm kidding.
So thank you.
That would be definitely to my dad, because I, as an early age, I always looked up to him as a businessman and entrepreneur. And I think even though he hasn't been in my life since I was 26 years old, I think he's always been here. So, and that's what I would do. I would write something really nice and thank him for everything he taught me.
Well, thank you for that, Alex. That's really heartfelt and touching. Saul, you're last.
I'm gonna go a little geeky here, but I would write to Nikolai Tesla. He's always been one of my favorite inventors of all time. And my postcard with him be, how would you make this world better with, the amount of technology and knowledge that exists now? How would he make this world better, and what kind of, products or inventions would make this world currently better?
No, I love that idea, and it's kind of like Back to the Future a little bit, so then you can kind of take those ideas and propel them forward. Let me give you guys this last question. I'll let you guys go. Who is your biggest kind of business role model that you look up to? It could be a Jeff Bezos, it could be a Mark Zuckerberg, and maybe just a quick explanation of what you appreciate about them.
I would say definitely Steve Jobs. Simply because he thinks differently, he thought differently, and his motto really is, think different, and he really lived by that. And now, I always say you get attracted to certain people, and we've been fortunate enough to have Mark Cuban as our business partner now, and I would say Mark Cuban as well, because he thinks differently. He really, really does. And I just realized while I was talking to you right now, I've always wanted to work with people that think differently and just do things a little bit differently. And Mark does that. And I just realized that we have a business partner, maybe not Steve Jobs, but as good as Steve Jobs, that we have Mark Cuban. So I would say those two people.
Love it. Saul, I'm coming to you.
Mine, and this is one thing that connects David and I. It was our affinity and love for Apple. So mine's Steve Jobs. I love, what he kind of stood for and how he built the company and the products that he was able to build and change the world. So, definitely look at him as a role model, because not only was he a great businessman, but he was also a great product guy, which resonates with me very highly.
All right, Alex, you're last. Make it good.
Well, I guess Steve Jobs is the big name today. I have to say Steve Jobs is one of them, and I have two as well. And Steve Jobs, my thing is, iPhone and Apple computers are aesthetically beautiful pieces of art to me. So, I'm coming from a design background, how the phones look, what they portray, what they show, and how they work. Obviously, the technology part of it, way ahead of the curve for years and years. But to have that innovation, have that design, have that look, how everybody goes to the Apple stores, can't wait till they buy the next phone. All that as far as the design perspective and how makes people want it, and other than just the technology, is big for me. And also another person would be Spielberg. I am big fan of movies, and this guy had a big role in my life as far as creativity goes. He has done so many amazing movies, and we can keep going on and still do to this day. So he's been a big inspiration for me as well in the creative world.
I love all of those. Here's the last thing I want you guys to share with us. What's the best way for people to stay in contact with Bouquet Box and to stay in contact with you guys personally?
I would say, LinkedIn is a great platform. Right now we're going through Valentine's Day, so we'll definitely try to get back to people. So I'll probably say LinkedIn.
And I think all our social platforms as well. So across Facebook, Instagram, and then through email, our website, any kind of customer service issue, we're always available. And that's one huge thing for us. Customer service is number one on our list, all three of us.
Guys, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, quick note before we leave. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Leaders. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a review. As we try to grow the show and invite more leaders to share their stories, every subscribe, rating, and review really helps expose the podcast to new ears. And a quick thank you to today's guest and our sound engineer, Jonathan Costco. Until next time, I'm James Fratzke.